Coming this fall from SJS Direct, Easting the Sands of Time. It's action, adventure, and romance in ancient Egypt in this fantasy flashback Easting series adventure. Pre-order Easting the Sands of Time today on Amazon.com. I recently got a comment from one of my viewers on my video, Disney Doubles Down on Kathleen Kennedy, that was quite troubling. And this comment went like this: if we don't support Star Wars, what do we support? Star Trek? And I listened to that comment and I saw the codependency in that statement, because when it comes down to many comic book fans, sci-fi fans, and fantasy fans, they are codependent. And in a codependent relationship, one person has more power than the other. And what happens in a collectible comic fan, sci-fi fan, and fantasy fan codependency relationship is that people allow companies like Lucasfilm, Marvel Comics, DC Comics, or whatever fantasy or sci-fi franchise owners to have power over them. And that shows how little value they have as a man or a woman, or how little value they have as a fan. And as a sci-fi and fantasy and comic book fan, I'm here to tell you that you have value. And because you have value, you need to understand how much power you have. Because if it was not for you, the comic book fan, the sci-fi fan, the fantasy fan, going out here and spending your money on those comic books, those movie tickets, those action figures, those collectibles, those video games, those franchises would not be as popular as they are. Because it was fans who made Star Wars a worldwide phenomenon and a part of American pop culture history. And it's fans who go out here and elevate these stories into parts of American history and a part of American lore. Because it's fans that keep these characters alive, and it's fans that made these characters great. And as a fan, you have to understand your value, because you are more important than these companies that produce these characters, because again, it's your money that makes these characters popular. It is your enthusiasm for these characters that make them icons, and it's you who can either make an icon or break an icon. That's the power you have as a fan. Now, as a fan who values himself as a man, I understand my power. And my power is the money that I spend on comic books, DVDs, action figures, video games, or even things like going out here and buying tickets to these movies. So that's the power I have as a fan. And as a fan, if something does not meet my standard, then I do not buy it. And an example of this happened back in the late 80s when Transformers changed from the G1 Transformers to Transformers the movie. Now, after Transformers the movie and when they murdered all of the characters I grew up with, I didn't buy a single Transformer after that, because Transformers no longer met my standard, so I decided it was just time to leave at 13 years old. And that's how young I was, understanding my value as a fan. And as I bought comic books from bodegas in the Bronx, or even comic book stores like Forbidden Planet, I understood my value as a fan. And if a store owner treated me with disrespect and wanted to get snarky with me, I no longer bought comics from that individual, because I understood that why should I spend money with people who don't show me respect, because I understood that the way they treated me was more important than that comic, because there was something important there as related to my intangibles of manhood. And my intangibles of manhood are about preserving my dignity, my self respect, and my self worth. And I wasn't willing to compromise my intangibles of manhood just to own the latest issue of a comic book. That comic I could pick up anywhere, but me making that compromise of my intangibles of manhood, that's something that would be hard to recover from. And that's something many comic fans have a serious problem with as related to their self-worth. They sit there and they make compromises to their dignity, their self-respect, and their self-worth, and that's something you should not do. And I see this happen all the time, and I've seen it happen recently when your Dan Dido announced DC was changing from the classic DC universe to the new 52. We had many comic fans still continuing to try to buy these comics, hoping they would get better. And I said to myself, if your Dan Dido wants to go in this direction with DC Comics, then it's time for me to stop supporting their products. And that's how you send a message to a business, because as a fan, again, you have the ultimate value because these companies need the dollars you spend. You cannot allow these companies to have leverage over you and hold these characters over your head and play these little games like Dan Dido plays, where he kills off popular characters and then gets you to react emotionally, and then you continue to buy these issues because what he's doing is bullying and needling you. What you do in that situation is you walk away from the table, and you stay walking away from the table because that's how you maintain your intangibles of manhood. Because many comic fans just don't understand intangibles of manhood, because when it comes down to these companies, they go out of their way, like your Dan Dido at DC Comics, and now your Kathleen Kennedy at Lucasfilm and Bob Iger. They show you no respect because they believe that they have a captive audience, and they believe that because you are so emotionally attached to these characters, you will keep coming back to keep spending your money. And that's something that shows how little respect they have for you as a fan and as a man or a woman. And that's how they create this codependent relationship where they abuse comic fans, sci-fi fans, and fantasy fans, because they believe that they have the product that they want, and that because they have the product that they want, they can treat you any way they please because they know that you will keep coming back for more. Well, as a longtime comic, sci-fi, and fantasy fan who has understood his value since he was 13 years old, I don't come back. And the reason why I do not come back is because I understand that my value is more than any comic book, any movie, any action figure, any video game, or any sort of merchandise featuring any character, because my intangibles of manhood are non-negotiable, my intangibles of manhood are not for sale, and they are not to be compromised for something as trivial as somebody's fictional story featuring fictional characters. Because at the end of the day, it is their job to earn my money, and it is their job to give me what I want. If a product does not meet my standard, then I'm not going to go out here and continue supporting that product. I could care less if it is Star Trek, Star Wars, Batman, Superman, Spider-Man, Marvel Comics, DC Comics, Image Comics. If it does not meet my standard, I no longer support it, because I know that out here it is a free and open marketplace, and I'm going to go where the products meet my standard. And this is why I can sit there and say I will not buy a DC comic that features New 52 or Rebirth because it's not my standard. And I will not buy any of these forced diversity Marvel comics out here because they don't meet my standard. Now, if I see an independent product out here that meets my standard, like Josh Howard's T-Bird and Throttle, I will go out here and put money on that product because that creator is creating something I see that is interesting to me, tells a story that I want to read, and has something that meets my standard. And when it comes down to many comic fans, sci-fi fans, and fantasy fans, they have to start understanding their value as a fan, and they have to start understanding that yes, I like the characters in this story, I like the adventures in this franchise, but if this material no longer meets my standard, if the company wants to go in a different direction, then it is time for me to move on. And while I may, enjoy these stories, I enjoy having my intangibles of manhood or womanhood far more than this product because it is the fan who makes the product popular. It is the fan who makes the product valuable, and it is the fan that makes the product what it is. If it wasn't for my readers, I wouldn't have the following that I have. And I value and appreciate everyone who picks up an SJS Direct Universe fantasy title like the ISIS series, the Eastdeem series, the John Haynes series, the Temptation of John Haynes, or the Spinsterella trilogy. And because I value my fans, I appreciate every one of them in my social interactions on social media or my social interactions on the street. Because I know if it wasn't for those people spending money with me, I wouldn't be able to do things like get my books to the marketplace, one, or be able to hire artists like Bill Walko or Mike Williams to design the covers for my books. I appreciate everything that my viewers and my fans do for me, whether it be buying my books, telling their friends about my books, or sharing my books with others, because they don't have to do that. And this is something that your Kathleen Kennedys, your Dan Didos, and many others in the billion-dollar corporate comic book and fantasy and sci-fi world just don't understand that because you don't value your fans, this is why your industry is falling apart, because you don't value the people who go out of their way every Wednesday to go out here and go to these comic book stores or go online to buy your comics. And this is why comics have fallen off. This is why Star Wars is in decline. And this is why sci-fi and fantasy in many areas is struggling, because we have people at the top who don't appreciate the people at the bottom, and they don't understand if it wasn't for those people lifting you up, your franchise would fall to the ground. And that's what I'm seeing happening with Star Wars right now. Star Wars, Marvel Comics, DC Comics, Image Comics, they're all falling because they don't value their fans and they don't treat them with the respect that a man or a woman deserves. When I look at my readers, I always try to treat them with the utmost respect. I always try to treat them the way I would want to be treated, because I follow the standard of the Bible regarding do unto others as you would have them do unto you. And I really, again, appreciate every effort that they make, because if it wasn't for them, I would not be blessed with them and the grace of God to be able to do the things that I'm doing right now. And that's something that people in the industry don't understand. They don't understand that people have value, and when you're in this business, you serve the people, and because you're serving the people, you want to give them your very best, not treat them like a pest. And that's the way I see things as related to sci-fi, fantasy, comics, manga, the whole circle, because as I see people being mistreated by these companies, it just aggravates me because a lot of people don't understand their value. They don't understand they have power, and that power they have is to vote with their wallet because you have more value than this comic book franchise, this fantasy franchise, this sci-fi franchise, and because you have value, you're the one making this franchise into the pop culture phenomenon or the cult phenomenon it actually is. And any smart creator like myself is going to acknowledge those people, treat them with respect, because they understand that if it wasn't for the fans, they wouldn't be in this place right now. And what I want to see a lot of fans start doing is breaking out of a codependent relationship with companies like Lucasfilm, like Disney, like Marvel Comics, like DC Comics and Warner Brothers, and start having interdependent relationships with companies like my SJS Direct imprint. Because in an interdependent relationship, there's a reciprocal exchange. The business gives the reader what it wants, and the reader gives money in exchange for those products. And in an interdependent relationship, both partners get what they need, and both partners have clear and transparent communication. In a codependent relationship, one company has more power than the fans do, and that's a very lopsided relationship because it allows one individual or a group of individuals to abuse people. And I don't want to abuse people. I want to support people. I want to encourage people to be their best, and I want them to come out of an SJS Direct story with a positive experience, because that positive experience is what enables them to spread the word of mouth. And that's something that someone wants when they value their fans, because when you value your fans, you want them to be able to go out here and spread the word regarding your products, and you want them to have a positive experience. So they say that they can't go anywhere, but there are plenty of places you can go. Again, there are many independent publishers like myself, guys like Diversity in Comics, guys like Ethan Van Sciver out here. You can get behind us and elevate our products to another level and make them the new pop culture phenomenons. Because if people like Kathleen Kennedy and Dan Dido don't respect you and don't value you enough to appreciate your money, there are other people in who are trying to build new independent franchises who would gladly take your dollars, like myself, and make efforts to give you the best possible products that we can. Because we want to give you a great reading experience, a great comic experience, a great fantasy experience, because as a man, I value you as a fan. If you'd like to try some of my SJS Direct publications, like the ISIS series, the E-Steam series, the John Haynes series, The Temptation of John Haynes, and the Spinsterella trilogy, you may do so by clicking the link as a description box. And if you want to help me make more videos like this, you can donate to my Patreon in the description box. That's all I have to say for this video. You can comment, rate, and subscribe.